She has watched health advertising move from awareness messaging to mainstream cultural conversation. In this episode, Ogilvy India's Chief Creative Officer, Kainaz Karmakar, tells campaign why juries are increasingly scrutinizing a brand's right to play in health and wellness conversations.
When you're inside that room where the awards happen and you see that work on stage and you see people going up on stage to collect the trophy, you have to be an unreasonably detached person to not feel like I want to be there. It's a festival of creativity. Creative is the heart of it. Health and wellness is now become one of the most important categories. Impact is relevant if the idea is great. See, sadvertising is not cool if it's not done or if it's exploitative. It's like a mind-opening experience. Okay, I think you should definitely aspire, compete, and fight to go to Cannes, because there is no experience like that.
Hi Kainaz, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Campaign India.
Thank you.
So I wanted to know, which was the year that you first attended Cannes?
I think it was 11 or 12, and I only attended Cannes after I came to Ogilvy. 10 or 15 of us that had gone there, and there was only one person, Vijay Sawant, who had been there before. So he was like our guide. And Vijay would take us everywhere and he would tell us what to do and you know what. And it's like an assault on your senses in the best way possible. I mean, I don't think I can ever get that feeling back. And also one of the great things is that you are a little lower in the chain of things. So the responsibility is only limited to your own campaigns. It's not like the whole agency's, reputation is resting on your shoulders.
So from then to now, a lot of changes take place. From someone who went over there with the eyes bright and wide open to someone now who's literally a veteran. What are some of those standout things for you when you talk about Cannes?
So I think from a practical point of view, a 6-day festival over time became a 5-day festival. So that's like a small thing. But I had no idea that Cannes was such a big festival for clients as well. But I think that's increased over the years. Of course, Cannes was always a big deal. I mean, it is one of the festivals that's known to everybody. But the fact that it really is a place where you meet your clients, where clients come, they are on stage, they are a part of the jury, they are excited about it. I think that is the biggest change that I have seen. And I think it's a good thing because it kind of changes the way you look at work as a team. It's not just a creative indulgence, so to speak, It's truly a celebration of great work in which everybody participates. The creative takes pride in it, the client takes pride in it, the production house takes pride in it, the tech partners take pride in it. So I think that is one of the biggest changes that I've seen. And the second thing that I have seen in terms of the change, I would say, is that you never get a good place to stay.
You joined as a young creative, and then you have been part of various other cohorts. You have been part of See It, Be It as well. This time you're the jury president for a very interesting category, right? That's also quite a journey for you. How do you feel about it?
I remember the first time I read that I'm going to be like Cannes jury president on the email, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it's really something. I'm not going to lie about it. It's a terrific feeling when that email comes and it tells you you're a jury president of Cannes Lions. I mean, it's a massive feeling and it's a journey. It's a journey, like from the first time I went and standing in queues to attend something, being wide-eyed about everything, to then, the entire thing about taking over an office and, being responsible for their representation at the festival. I became a jury in, I think, 2022 as a part of print, and that was my first time as a jury person, and then becoming jury president at Cannes Lion. It really feels like a long
quite
journey.
A journey and a very interesting journey.
Yeah.
And the health and wellness category, now we have seen over the years that it has moved from something which was awareness-led communication to now there is a larger, broader cultural conversation. It's about behavior, it's about inclusion, it's about well-being. So what, according to you, will feel or even in the course of the various work that you have been doing, what feels materially different about the kind of work that is entering the category over the past couple of years?
So, I would say that health and wellness is, from starting as an additional category in CAN in maybe 17 or 18, it's probably now become one of the most important categories because of the way the world is looking at well-being. The way the world is looking at mental health. The way the world is looking at their own bodies, If you open any of the social media, one of the biggest topics of conversation at any point is health and well-being. So I think it's very important. And as far as the work that is being entered, I feel a little differently, and I'll tell you why. And all kinds of work is, welcome to be entered as long as it's great work and impactful work. But in terms of two categories, one is health and one is glass. These two lines, I feel awareness cannot be undermined, or it cannot be said that it's less important, because unlike a lot of other things, in these two categories, the kind of issues that come up, awareness is a big deal, because there's a lot of stigma attached to even talking about certain things. The amount of stigma that is attached to talking about having a certain kind of disease, or the fact that you feel completely alone. I'm detected with something, but I don't know, I mean, am I losing my mind? And then, you realize that no, you're not the only one. There are a lot of people around the world going through this. So I think awareness removes stigma. And, or even in glass, the amount of thing of women not wanting to report assault because they're looked at in a certain way. But again, once you know that there are so many women around the world who are doing it, it kind of encourages you. And I'll give you a very small example about it from real life. So we have these all hands meeting in every few months in our company. And one of those meetings, I was talking, I took the mic and I talked about going to therapy. The meeting got over and I came back and I was, starting to have lunch. And I cannot tell you, at least 5 to 6 people individually walked up to me and said, thank you so much for talking about it in a public forum. Because, obviously, even today, I'm talking about 2026, this must have happened a year back, 2025, people felt like it was some kind of a big deal to talk about therapy. So the importance of awareness cannot be undermined in these two categories, and there has to be results attached to awareness.
So when you talk about awareness, and what you mentioned also about certain of the ailments or illnesses that are there, last year we saw humor play a very big role, especially with the herpes ads, right? Now that is again another disease that very few people are comfortable owning up to. But yet that was the one that won a lot of eyeballs, a lot of applauds, and also a lot of awards. But do you think that, humor is something that is being used exponentially in various categories, especially, impact like glass or even health and well-being, because every other cultural nuance attached to it becomes very difficult to translate?
I haven't seen it that much in glass, but definitely in health, humor is making a comeback. And it is definitely here to stay. It's not about making fun of the disease or of the people, but it is about the ability to show the lightness in the seriousness. I have honestly not seen it in glass. Maybe we will see this year, who knows.
Fair enough. But how exactly, as a president for this particular category, and like you said, this category is now getting a lot of attention within CAN, outside of CAN, and globally as well. How do you intend to work with your fellow jurors to separate work that is, like you said, merely emotionally persuasive from work that demonstrates measurable behavior or real world health impact?
Yeah. When I have been talking to the jury, I've been very clear on certain things and of how we should look at the work. First thing is that impact is relevant if the idea is great. So first thing we must look at is, let's find the great ideas. Once we have a bunch of great ideas, we need to look at which of those has made a real world impact. Then those will keep rising up. But I really don't want the conversation to go to, I'm going to look at the results first and then I'm going to come and look at the work. Because that is not how Cannes works. It's a festival of creativity. Creative is the heart of it. If the idea is great, go and look at the impact, go and look at the results. We don't want to award average ideas which have put some great business results over there, because it is a festival of the best ideas, the best work in the world. So I think that is non-negotiable for me. It has to be creatively great and have had an impact to whatever the objective is. So it is not, everything is not about the sales of the thing doubled, That is the very, I would say, a very simple way to look at it. Read the objective in the form. What was the objective of the exercise? Analyze whether the creativity is reaching that objective, or where it has reached in that objective. For example, if it is about saving a life, I think one life saved is great. You have to nuance it and not generalize it so much. There has to be some guardrails that we follow, but it can't be so watertight that, unless like the business results show that I have a 35% growth, because everybody writes that. Once you come to the results section, we kind of even know what is to be predicted. What I'm really looking for is, yes, it has made an impact, but if this idea goes to win big, and if the world adopts it, it can make an even greater impact. And I'll give you an example of that. Vaseline Verified, done by our very own Singapore office. They did it at scale, no doubt. But after it won, it exploded. That is very, very important, that do we have that idea that can impact the world?
Would you give more weightage to the creativity and the work that is there, which might have sparked the campaign, even if the outcome was not so great? Given the fact that pharma and wellness and health is a highly regulated industry, so even being able to come up with a fantastic idea by itself and ensure that you stay within those guardrails that you mentioned is challenging.
No, so I would definitely not award something that has had no impact, because if it has had no impact, then clearly maybe it's too early to enter that idea. You should wait till it has some kind of impact, or maybe it's not been done with the right intention. But if as a team we feel that this is a great idea, it has had an impact, but the impact it can have is limited. Like for example, let's say a certain kind of thing allowed 2 patients to completely, be treated. Then if it allows 2 patients to get their life back, to me, that is impact. You have to look at the impact in context of the case. That's all I'm saying. Not as a generic, how to put business result or impressions or, how many influencers talked about it.
But that is very challenging, because in contemporary times, everybody is actually talking and tracking those kind of metrics and is only wanting to submit that kind of data whenever they send a submission, right? So it's literally like you're separating the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah. So that's why those 3 days that we meet together are so important, because it doesn't become an individual decision then, right? There's a team, there are points of view, there are people who say, hey, I saw this in my country. Hey, I did not see this ever in my country happen, really. Or this issue is so important to my country, I'm glad this company is talking about it. That's why these awards are not given by one great person sitting in a room, deciding, or separating the gold from the bronze. It's a collective decision, and we hope we are able to, bring out the best work to the top.
I'm sure you must have been checking out some of the campaigns that stood out in this particular category, not necessarily from Ogilvy, but from other agencies. Which are the ones that really stuck to your mind as being like stellar work that really deserved the kind of awards that they won in the health and wellness category over the years?
If you're saying not necessarily from Ogilvy, I think one thing that really, one campaign that really stayed with me is FCB's Sick Beats. I really love that campaign because I think they took in fibrosis of the lungs and those very uncomfortable things that kids have to wear, and they turned it into something so cool and they connected it to music, and it was really, I guess, one of my favorite campaigns.
This category still sits in that kind of a backdrop, where there is widening health inequity globally and not just in India. There are rising obesity concerns, worldwide. And there is a growing ecosystem of misinformation and disinformation. So today almost any brand can position itself as a health and a wellness brand in whichever ways. So how do you ensure that, the jury will keep creativity at the center of its evaluation process? It's not something which is a very opportunistic purpose singular, but the brand actually is living it.
Yeah. We call it normally the right to play, in the sense that does this brand have a right to play in this issue?
Okay.
So I think that is always something that comes up when we are talking about it, or even when we are sort of evaluating it at home, because sometimes it feels like, hey, this is very nice, but why is this brand doing it? So it's important that they explain that in the form, that why this brand has the right to play. Like sometimes it is very obvious, like when Vaseline did Vaseline Verified, it's very obvious why they did it and they had the right to do it. But when it is a less obvious thing, then maybe you need to either explain it, or then kind of draw a line saying that, hey, nice idea, but not for this category.
Health advertising, from whatever one has seen,
Yeah.
is that historically it has leaned heavily on fear or maybe shame or even judgment, the same example that you mentioned.
Yeah.
All in an effort to drive urgency. In fact, there is this one term that people often call it as sadvertising, right? So do you think that the category has become too dependent on things like dark imagery, alarming statistics, and inherent behavioral guilt, and that somewhere narrows the creative ambition that agencies can bring to the fore?
No, so honestly, I don't think that is the case anymore. It was a time. In fact, when we met as a jury online and we were talking about it, and I was telling them that when I was growing up, there were only two kinds of health advertising I saw. One were the posters in the doctor's offices, which usually had a figure of some lung or something going black. The other was that before movies began in cinemas, they would do the anti-smoking ads and really show the most gruesome stuff. Even now those ads come, by the way, and I always cover my eyes before seeing them. Those were the only two kinds of pieces that existed when I was growing up as a child. And even advertising, I think, sadvertising is not cool if it's not done, or if it's exploitative. But if it's a genuine story, but it's a sad story, but the story will move you to take action, then I don't think it's advertising. I just think it's a moving story. So as you spend years and years in the industry, I think you can tend to have an intuition about the fact of, what you're calling, something that is like, I am trying to, sort of almost pinch you so that you cry, and what is genuinely moving work, talking about a truth, and that can be said in any way. I don't mind it if it's said in a dark way. I don't mind if it's said in a funny way, or if you're going to just delight me, or you're going to show it to me through a new kind of technology. It's all good.
Interestingly, most of the cigarette packs have this similar gruesome imagery.
Yes.
But that has not led to any drop in sales. In fact, the sales of these kind of products have gone up. What you mentioned about is this is something that is driven by the administration, by the government. So do you think that there is a need for a push or a lobby where the government changes its stance on how it approaches the, having this conversation with the public at large from a very light-hearted way, from a very entertaining way, so that,
or at least a different way. I think a different way is definitely essential.
So who bells that cat?
I mean, I don't know who can bell that cat, but I feel that maybe a conversation needs to be had at some level, or some kind of awakening needs to be done over there. It's certainly not going to be me.
Now that you have you're representing India literally, and in such a stellar position, that would help you at least enable a conversation, if nothing else, saying that it's time for health advertising on public platforms to become even more colloquial, more contemporary, and not fall into the same old tropes that has been attached to it of your. Do you think you will be able
I
to
can
do
have that conversation, but I wouldn't know how to have it with the government.
If I were to ask you as a creative professional, what is that one category that you would like to see inducted in Cannes in the coming years?
Humor.
Oh, as a category.
I think the proportion of work that has humor in it, it's not there as much as it should be. Humor has made a comeback and it's here to stay, but I don't think it's as much as the world needs it.
Okay.
And that's also about, because it's such a tricky thing, because the minute you do humor and you maybe cross a line which you don't think is a line, or you didn't know the line existed over there, then you're obviously attacked from various sources, because people's ability to our world's ability to take humor has also gone down.
I guess that is true, and most of the brands would also want to play it as safe as is possible in the current environment that one is, especially if they are a multinational organization. And
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it is their prerogative to ensure that they
Yeah.
stay as safe and as honest to the ethos of the brand.
Also, and sort of do humor. I don't think that is a problem, but I think and I see it in a lot of stand-ups also take it up as a theme, that what you can talk about and what you can't talk about has really, I think we've become excessively sensitive. So
And the cancel culture is here.
so the cancel culture is here. So I think one tweet or one comment can really sort of hurt a brand. So that's why they are cautious, maybe for a reason.
Okay, so Kainaz, last question. If you were to give 3 suggestions to young creatives who probably still look at Cannes with the same kind of wild-eyed wonder that you had in 2011, so what would be those suggestions?
Yes, first of all, yes, it matters, and I'll tell you why it matters. Because it's like a mind-opening experience. Okay, I think you should definitely aspire, compete, and fight to go to Cannes, because there is no experience like that can be given to you in your agency or in your country right now. You hear speakers that you never thought you will hear. You meet people and cross people who have been your idols. Once I remember Harshad, me and a friend who's no longer in the world, we were walking down the Crosset, and we came across, like, I think 4 or 5 legends who were just coming back from dinner together, advertising legends. I don't want to take their name, but they were like really big deal. You'd only seen their pictures so far together. And they were laughing like, a bunch of trainees, because they must have just had their dinner and drinks and walking back. And like, we stopped them and we took pictures and all of that. And that can only happen there. Secondly, I think when you're inside that, the room where the awards happen, and you see that work on stage, and you see people going up on stage to collect the trophy, you have to be a unreasonably detached person to not feel like I want to be there. That's why, as a young creative, I think it's getting harder and harder, because there are so many, rules that have come in now about, who can go, who can't go. There are all kinds of, financial issues and all of that. But there is still, I think, if you win, if you compete, if you work hard, there is a very, very good chance you'll end up there. And I would do all of those things if I was a young person.
So, last question to you. What is it that you are looking forward this year, other than, of course, your jury duties at Cannes? are you looking forward? I personally am looking forward to Oprah Winfrey's session.
I'm looking forward to getting a table at Bobo's, which is really difficult, and it's my favorite restaurant in Canada.
Okay, I hope you get one. I hope you've already made your reservations for that.
I have not, but I should.
Thank you once again, Kainaz. It was lovely speaking to you.
Same.